What's the worst Allman Brothers record in history? If you'd asked me 2 days ago, I would have said there wasn't a single fan in the world who would not have chosen 1981's Brothers of the Road. This one was released at the absolute nadir of the band, and if you just look at the album cover, first of all, it's just such a pathetic album cover. As I wrote, you got Mike Lawler above my head, looking like he's fixing to go hunting, hopefully with his keytar and destroy that thing. Over there on the other side, Frankie Toller is dressed, like a alternative uniform for the Houston Astros at the time. Greg's going to go to a tiki bar soon, maybe pick up some ladies or something like that. At least Butch wore a hat, but the only guy there it looks like he's prepared for an album cover shoot is Dickie Betts. I could keep bragging on that picture, but one thing that several folks noticed right away, those who don't follow the Allman Brothers like I do, super hardcore, but he's like, "Where's J-Mo?" Or some people just said, "Hey, isn't there a black guy in the band?" So here's the other, just the travesty of this record is they kicked J-Mo out of the band about a year before it came out, like November of 1980. He was out of the band, and the guy dressed, I guess he's all the way to the right there in the purple and blue stripe. That's Frankie Toller, David Frankie Toller, who Dan Toller's brother. You can see the two guys standing there. They are definitely brothers, for sure. Anyway, J-Mo was kicked out of the band for any variety of reasons, but a lot of it was personality conflicts between all of them. When you listen to this record and you listen to the one that was released before it, super, super, super warp speed fast. I always say it kind of sounds like Brought to You by Cocaine. And of course, on both those records, Reach for the Sky, 1980, 1981's Brothers of the Road, Mike Lawler got a chance to show off his synthesizer chops. And honestly, terrible, terrible, terrible fit with the music. But here's the thing. I don't care for it at all. In fact, I don't own this record, never have. I've listened to it maybe once in my life. I've listened to songs from it, etc. But there are major defenders of Brothers of the Road out there in the world. And I met a whole bunch of them, as many as were out there. And some people taking offense to me calling the album the Allman Brothers Band's worst, as if anything the Allman Brothers put out, nothing could be considered worst, which doesn't make any sense, right? If you have a list of 13 official records, I would include At Fillmore East in there. Of those sort of official records that were released, what's worse than Brothers of the Road? And the two that came up, one was Reach for the Sky. People said Reach for the Sky. I certainly equally tired to my ears, but it's got J-Mo. And the second one, somebody said Win, Lose, or Draw, which I thought was actually a very good point, which gave me pause to think and say, why is Win, Lose, or Draw not the Allman Brothers Band's worst album? Because, well, it's got High Falls, for one, and it's also got Can't Lose What You Never Had, which are just two all-timers for them. It's not a great record front to back, of course, but it's not this, in my not-so-humble opinion. Story goes that Clive Davis at Arista Records, who had signed both the Allman Brothers and the Grateful Dead about around the same time, insisted the Allman Brothers bring in co-writers and other producers, and made their sound. They were looking for hits, and it made their sound completely different and didn't work at all. And the reviews right out of the gate on both the records, Reach for the Sky and Brothers of the Road, were not very good. And in January of 1982, shortly after this record came out, the Allman Brothers Band broke up for another 7 years. If you've done any searching for Allman Brothers Band on YouTube, you will find this video. It's the Allman Brothers Band playing in January of 1982 in Gainesville, Florida. And you'll see the band still ripped live on stage. There were issues. I don't dig this era of the band. I don't think they needed the background singers. Ultimately, I don't think Frankie Toller and Butch were as good a mix. Nobody was as good a mix as Butch and J-Mo. That's just a fact. The keytar was an absolute travesty. Just look it up. It doesn't fit. I understand the band's attempts to do it. But I think one of the things people were always mad at me about when I called Brothers of the Road the Allman Brothers' worst record is because they remember, if not this video, this era, people who saw the Allman Brothers in 1980, 81, 82, all speak glowingly about it, like I did when I saw them for the first time in 1993. That speaks volumes to not only their reputation, but also them living up to that reputation as a great live act. And so Brothers of the Road, universally reviled. Well, I guess not universally reviled. I would say that we're in the high 90% of the fans interacting on my social media, which is, I'm going to be honest, is probably getting up there to close to 50,000 people when you add all the different parts. I don't know how many crossovers there are, but it's a lot of folks, and way more people defending Brothers of the Road than ever in a million years I expected to hear. Long live the Allman Brothers Band.